I was going to make a little video about some things I've seen recently on YouTube by a couple of YouTubers over in the Philippines that I thought made really good points. But man, just here a minute ago, I'm off work today because it's Martin Luther King Day. The post office is closed. So I went over to the Starbucks, which I found out is going to be closing after tomorrow, moving to a new location. Got my wife some hot chocolate because she wanted something warm to drink at work. I'm cruising back down the road to take it back to her, crossing over I-4, and I see some asshole in a postal vehicle, an LLV, making a left-hand turn right in front of me to go onto the I-4 eastbound on-ramp, you know? I knew he had a red light because I'd been watching my light and it was green for the whole time I was cruising down there since I went through the last couple of intersections. And I looked back as I went through, sure enough, red arrows. But he cut across in front of me. I'm flying through there like 40 miles an hour or whatever. And then there was a car coming up to my right on the other side of me at about the same speed. He ended up doing like a zigzag pattern across that intersection in front of us. Damn, I wish I could have gotten his vehicle number. I guess it's some CCA delivering packages today, but trying to shorten his lifespan, I guess. I'm glad I didn't run into him and kill one of my fellow postal workers just because he was an asshole and being crazy and not yielding the right of way and sitting there at a red light like he was supposed to. But man, I'd love to know who it was and give him a little talking to. So that was fun. A little fun adventure on my day off. Can't get away from the post office even when I'm not there. But I was watching a couple of videos lately. One just this morning by the British Expat in the Philippines. I sometimes disagree with some of the things he does and says, and some of the information he puts out. He has a pretty negative attitude about a lot of things in comparison to my own. But he and I are in totally different situations, so that's life, you know. And plus some people are just naturally more pessimistic than optimistic. But he was talking about how having a YouTube channel can get you into relationship trouble. People, you know, you say things, you start talking about your own family. It's easy to say things that can be misinterpreted and taken the wrong way. You know, when you start posting stuff where you're talking about your own family, relatives, and things like that, especially if you're always posting negative shit and talking about how stupid Filipinos are and how they don't know anything about handling money and this and that, and you know, how innocent they all are and just can't comprehend what we Westerners understand and things like that. You know, sooner or later you're going to offend somebody and get into trouble. If it's not in your own relationship, then you're going to get into trouble with somebody in your wife's family or a circle of friends or somebody that you're talking about. I know myself, I've tried to be very, very careful about stuff like that. You can't be going online and talking about people and detailing, you know, things that are going to reveal to everybody who they are and talking about specific circumstances and any kind of, you know, specific details, or you're going to run the risk of somebody's going to get mad at you and be coming after you. So he made some very good points about that. You know, he talked about some of these guys, you know, the old expats sitting there with their young little girlfriends next to them, which is something that I've talked about myself before, you know. These guys, I don't understand the point with some of them. They're the ones who do all the talking, but they've got their wife or whoever sitting there next to them, yeah, nodding, and right, yeah, and then ask them questions, you know, look, right, isn't that right? And ask them a question, but you never actually let them answer or say anything. But I know some of these older expats, I've seen comments from some people on my channel about things, And it's very obvious that some of them, well, it's like one guy I had, of course, he came right out and told me, the Bible says the man's supposed to be the head of the house and I make the decisions and blah, blah, blah. I had one person was talking about how, well, he said, me and my wife, I didn't point out to him, proper grammar is my wife and I, but he said, me and my wife only watch channels from people who actually live in the Philippines, because they're the only ones that can know anything. And man, I wanted to ask him, first of all, do you always speak for your wife like that? Maybe that's why he put himself first instead of using proper grammar and being polite and saying my wife and I. He said me and my wife because he always comes first. There's a lot of guys like that. So you see them when they have YouTube channels, their wife is there kind of like an accessory. She's there to show her cleavage and her little push-up bra and push her boobs up for all the other dirty old men to watch on YouTube so they can get views and get a few bucks, So personally, for me, that's something I don't think is the smartest thing or the most respectful thing of your wife or girlfriend. But you see how these people, a lot of times, they get themselves in trouble. You see these guys over there, they're running around with their little girlfriends with no clothes on, always running around with the absolute bare minimum of clothes on possible and helping them show houses and stuff and parading them around and having the camera linger on their asses and boobs. And eventually, a lot of these guys end up not being together anymore anyways. But their wife or their girlfriend or whatever, she just seems to be an accessory to help get views on YouTube. Which, I don't know, that tells you, I guess, how badly they need views. Even though a lot of these guys who do this stuff, they want to tell you how well off they are. So, I don't know, either that's not quite real or else they're just trying to, they think that their skinny little girlfriend is going to make everybody else jealous. And they want to impress all the guys watching their channel back in the States or wherever and say, check out this, Here I am with my girlfriend who's 30, 40 years younger than me, living the dream. So that could be part of it. But you have to be careful with stuff like that. It's kind of disrespectful. And especially if you're not in a really good, solid relationship, whenever it does end, there's going to be some resentment and some accusations and things flying back and forth and people wanting you to take all that stuff down. So the other thing I saw was, I guess it's, was it Mike's Philippine retirement or something like that? I usually don't watch much of his stuff. Every once in a while I'll watch a couple of minutes of it. But he actually made a very good point here recently in one of his videos, telling people to be a man in a relationship with some girl who's draining all their bank accounts and stuff. And they're sitting around acting like, well, what do I do? Instead of getting out of the relationship. I mean, if that's going on, you have to be smart enough and have enough of a spine to get out of it. I was talking about that with my wife the other day, and even she's like, yeah, there's plenty of other people around that aren't going to be like that. And like he said on that video, you can always find somebody else. Even my wife, like she said, she's like, there's lots of fish in the sea. If you got something like that going on in your life, a lot of guys, though, if they find themselves in a situation like that where they're hooked up with some, cute young girl, and they think, man, I'm living the dream. This is great. They're kind of hesitant to end things because they're like, oh, what am I going to do now? There's plenty of other women over there who will be more than happy to be with you. Obviously, it depends what kind of woman you're looking for. But even if you're just looking for someone as kind of like a a plaything that you don't plan on getting permanently attached to, you still should be able to find someone that's not going to go through all your bank accounts. Either that, or at least you'll be smart enough when you get in with the next one and you've changed all your passwords and everything and gotten new cards or whatever it is you've done, to make sure that you don't give them the same access that you did with the last person, unless you know this is like, the real deal. It's one thing if you're married to somebody or something like that. But if you just got some girlfriend over there, probably shouldn't be giving her that kind of access to everything. A lot of guys go over there, though, and they get scared, all the talk about medical issues and, who's going to be able to come and get me out of the hospital if I have some kind of a medical problem. And so they want somebody there who can access their money and come and get them out of the hospital or something if there's an emergency. But as it's been pointed out before by people, if that's your big concern, you might be better off if there's another expat or somebody there that you can trust. Even that, you got to be careful, because a lot of times the expats are the ones that are the worst, depending on what you're talking about. You can't trust all of them either, just because they happen to have come from the same country as you or something. You see stories all the time about expats over there trying to rip each other off. A lot of those guys that move over there, if they don't have a lot of money, they're always looking for easy marks. Or maybe that's why they're running their scams in other countries instead of back home, because everybody back home knows what they are. But you can't just give some woman access to all your money and your accounts and things like that if you don't know for sure that this is a serious relationship. And you're just, if it's just some girl that you're having fun with and you're trying to keep yourself free and clear of any kind of permanent connections financially, you sure as hell shouldn't be giving her access to your accounts. So either, leave her and make sure the next time it's somebody real, somebody you can trust, or just make sure that the next time you learn the lessons from that relationship. But those were a couple of good points I thought I saw in videos recently from Philippine YouTubers that good points for people to think about. Guess I'll get back to my day here, wondering who this idiot was that cut in front of me on the red light. Too bad I didn't get his vehicle number. I'd have some fun with that. But anyways, I hope everybody else out there is enjoying their Martin Luther King Day. It's nice to be off. Cold here in Florida. I almost put real shoes on today instead of flip-flops.